Hello, welcome back, and today I'm going to do a little tutorial on Logger Pro. So here we go. First thing I want to do is I want to locate the icon that's on the desktop. It's Logger Pro. This version is 3.8.7, but it may be changing in the future. So I'm going to double click on that and open it up, and up comes a file, and it's got an X and a Y, and it's basically your blank kind of graph that we have. So first thing I'm going to do is what I want to do is I want to show you what happens when you plug in a probe. So right now I've got a Go motion motion detector, so it kind of flips up like this. There's a switch here for going for a longer range, or click that if you're going for the shorter range. There's a little car. Okay, so what this does is it sends out a signal, bounces off something, and bounces back. It's connected by the cord, by a USB. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in into the back of the computer, and let's see what happens. Oh. All right, there it is. Okay, so I plug that in, and we look at our screen, and automatically it pops up that we have a position time graph, and it's basically it's trying to determine like what exactly you're trying to do with the equipment. So I see that it wants to do like a position time graph. And what this will do, if I hit collect, it'll automatically start collecting data from the probe. So I'm going to hit collect, and I can move my hand up and down right here, and you can kind of get a sense of where my hand is. If I hit collect again, first off, it's going to collect data for about 5 seconds, and that can be changed. It's just default. But if I hit collect again, what will happen is it'll erase that data, and it'll kind of start it all over again. So it erases what we had before and then begins again. So I click on this, and I notice I don't really see a whole lot of motion there. So if I want to open this up and be able to see more, I can hit the auto scale button right just here, which is very, very handy. You click that, it'll basically expand out. It'll take your biggest value, and it will make it the highest value on the graph, and then take the low value and then make it the lowest value on the graph. So you look at this, and boom, it expands it out. So it gives you to see a little bit clearer. You can do the same, click on this velocity here and do an auto scale, so you can kind of see that data a little bit better. Sometimes auto scaling hurts the way to see the graph, especially when you're trying to see like a completely horizontal line. It may be with a little bit of chatter. It might look like it's really crazy and jagged, but in reality, if you look at the scaling, it's actually not moving very much at all. So you have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. One thing you can do here is I could take and click and drag, and I want to get a section of the graph. I'm interested maybe in just that section of the graph is what I'm interested in seeing. So I'm going to click up here. I have many different options. I've got a statistical button. I have an integral, and this is a linear fit, and I've got a function or a curve fit. This right here is data collection. I haven't really messed with that button recently. And then generate graph match. I haven't done that in a while, but let's try this. Let's go ahead, and since I know that looks fairly linear, and I'm saying to myself, yeah, that looks fairly straight, I'm going to hit the linear fit button. So I click on that, and it's going to basically pull off brackets, and it's going to give me this little text box, and it's going to be lots of information such as the basic equation. We use like y equals mx plus b in your math class, but this is x, which is position, m is the slope, t is time, which is the x axis, and then b is the y-intercept. So if I look, it automatically calculates the slope. It's negative 0.53 meters per second. So it's kind of nice. It gives me the slope for that little section right there. It gives me the y-intercept. You have to take this again with a grain of salt, because what it's really doing is taking this slope all the way up, off the screen even, and that's why we get like a 1.13 meters, which is like way, way up there. So if I'm going to play around with this, maybe I can do 1.13 and hit enter. Oh, look, there it is. There's that y-intercept. It shows up right there. Perfect. And the correlation for that section is going to be 1.00, and it's a negative, which means it's just a negative trend. So that works out pretty well. It means I've got a fairly linear line right there. It's about 1 to 1. So that looks great. And the RMSE, I'm not really exactly sure what that's for, but it's a statistical thing. You can probably find around and see what that is. But I typically don't use that value. All right, great. So let's just say that I am going to take this slope, or take some data from this with the probe, and I want to generate a new graph for you to print out. And you want to just take this graph and interface with the probe, and you say, all right, I want to make my own graph. So in order to do that, some people can just yank the probe off of the computer, but you don't have to be so violent. What you can do is just minimize this screen. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this program. All right, and I'm going to keep that running because maybe I want to use it again later. And then I'm going to go back over my Logger Pro icon and hit and double click, and I'm going to start an additional copy. So this is to go back to what I just minimized. This is to make a new fresh copy. So it always works this way. Whenever you open up Logger Pro, the first file tries to talk with the probe. Tries to say, okay, you want to collect some data, I'm going to try to help you. Tries to generate some kind of a graph for you. So say, hey, look, this is what I want to talk. I want to make this happen. But then to make your own graph that you're going to like eventually possibly turn in or whatever, and you want to put your own numbers into, then minimize and open up a second file. Please don't forget that. It's very frustrating because sometimes, you know, you're trying to create your own graph and the file is trying to talk with the probe, and it doesn't ever work very well. So please try to realize you need two separate files. One to talk to the probe and one to write your actual data into. So let's go over here. And before you do any kind of data entry, you need to identify these variables. This is a common mistake. A lot of students, they don't bother with this part. And this is, it drives me nuts because I don't know what exactly they're putting in what column. They say, is this right? And I go, well, I don't know. What are your values? So before you do any data entry, you need to call these variables what they are. So you might do something like, I don't know, velocity, and whatever that may be, and then the velocity's little short name is v, and then this would be meters per second. So you make sure you fill in all these fields. It just makes life a lot easier. You can also have a pull-down menu: degrees, Greek lower, Greek upper. So if you want to have a net force, maybe you can do like a sigma or something like that. Subscripts, you know, like force 1, force 2, or velocity 1, velocity 2. You could put those in there. And then superscripts like a square, cube, you know, whatever on from there. So that's available to you if you can do that. All right, so there you have it, and then I'm going to go over here, double-click this, and I'm going to make this, I don't know, force. These are common things you measure in physics, so that's F. And the unit would be a Newton, capital N. I'm always particular about, I'm also peculiar, but if it's going to be capital or lowercase. You know, little n means something different than a capital N. Sometimes people put big M for mass or something, and I'm like, or big M for meter, and it doesn't work that way. So please be careful with the way you type things in. You hit done, and now we get this force versus velocity, and you can go in there and you can enter your data. It's just 0, enter, and then maybe do like a 10, enter, 5, enter, 20, whatever you got. I'm just making these numbers up. I'm making it kind of totally linear here. And you can notice that they're starting to show up on here. So like there's the data point right there. It's a little point protector. All right. So one thing you can do is right click on the graph, go to graph options, and then you can put a title in here. So I'm just going to do force versus velocity. And usually I don't do this to the very end, but that's how you put the title. I can hit connect points, and I do that. My title shows up here, and I get a nice connect to points. But a lot of times, these data points aren't exactly true to what life is, or it's not really what the trend is. So we really, a lot of times, we really don't want to connect the points. So let's do this. I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna unselect connect points, and I'm gonna hit done. And now I'm gonna use a tool called the linear fit. So I'm gonna hit this linear fit, and it's kind of just what we did in the last one when we figured out the slope. On this guy, we figure out the slope here. When we said, all right, there's a slope at that section. So we're just going to do the same thing, but now for the whole data points, for all the data points we have plotted. So I'm going to hit R equals, and there we have it. So in this text box, again, we have the same data we had before. And to give us the newtons per meters per second, which is nice. All right, so let's just say I want to do another experiment very similar to this experiment where I'm measuring velocity and force, but I want to do it for maybe a different system, maybe for a different mass. So maybe this was for a mass of, I don't know, let's just call this mass equals, I don't know, 20 grams. And okay, all right, great. So now I want to do another experiment with the same exact stuff, same exact variables here, but I want to do it maybe with like a 40-gram mass. So I go up to data, and I select new data set. So there's data set 2, and let's expand that so we can kind of take a look at what we've got going. So it looks almost exactly the same, which is really nice. So I've copied over the column names and the units that go in there, and then this just says mass. I guess that 2 just is a residual. Let me click on that. I'm going to cancel the 2 out, and I'm going to make that not 20 grams but 40 grams. So that's our new data set. So maybe we run the experiment all over again. We're going back and forth between this graph, and we're punching numbers in as we go. So let's just say I'm going to put some numbers in here so we can kind of see what it looks like. So maybe this was 0, 0. And this might, I kind of switched too far. Make sure you click on that and go to the other column. You don't want to undo what you just typed in. So let's just make this, I don't know, 20. and force of 5, and this would be, I don't know, 40, and the force of 10, something like that. And I go back to my graph, and I don't see anything. So this is the time of the lab that students call me over, and Mr. McCoy, it didn't plot my data points. Well, you know what you have to do. It's really simple. Just go over here, click on the y-axis. There's what says force, select that, and then this box comes up. You can select force and velocity. By the way, you can switch it really fast. You just, if I mess up and say, oh, you know what, I want velocity on this axis. Boom, and I make this. I want this to be force. Force, boom, instantly changes that, which is really a nice feature. That's one of the great things about dealing with computers. You can switch the axes almost instantaneously, which is a whole lot better than graphing it by hand. So I click on this, and then I'm going to say, okay, I really want force on that axis. I was wrong. So force versus velocity, something like that. And I'm going to click on that again, and I'm going to select more. When I select more, this box comes up. I'm going to open it up with this little plus, and I'm going to select the force for the second column. And computers are kind of dumb. They don't really know what's going on. You have to tell them exactly what you want. So you hit OK, and now you see this data set is shown up. Great. So what I'm going to do is do a linear fit for both. So I'm going to select this one, and now I get both lines on there lickety-split. Look at that. Let's make sure we don't have that gray area. It's just when you print it out, it just wasting. So make sure you click the graph before you print. And you go over here, slide this around. And now you've got both text boxes nice and pretty. You get your slope, and you might be really close to being done with the lab at that point. So anyway, that's a great tutorial as far as how to utilize two data tables and how to get both points plotted. And then let's try, I got a few moments here. Let's try this. Let's go here, and let's say I want to do like a force squared. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go data, and I want to add a column. In this case, I'm going to do a calculated column. I'm going to select new calculated column. I'm going to call this the force squared, and I can do the drop down menu. Actually, make backspace here. Drop down menu, I'm going to do a superscript 2. So I'm going to do force squared. So my short name would be F and superscript 2. Force squared. I can even write the word squared there. It doesn't really matter. And the units would be newtons. And I'm just having fun with this drop-down menu, squared. All right. And now my expression, what I want to do is I want to take my variables. I want to take my force column, and I want to bring it to the power, which is shift 6 to the power of 2. So that's how I do a square. And it's going to take, basically what it's going to do is take the force column, and then it's going to square it and hit done. And notice it does it for both columns. That's really nice. They're writing for both data tables. So now I got force squared here, and then over here I've got force squared over here. Great. But then the computer's being kind of dumb. It doesn't really know what to do. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to select more, and I want to instead do the force. I want to do the force squared. Now this is not really doing a linear regression like I've taught my students. It's just kind of showing you how you do the process. So right now they're already linear, so you don't really need to do a squared, but maybe I'll show you later another video on what that would actually look like. So I hit OK, and then now, wow, they really aren't linear at all. If I were doing R equals on those, it probably won't be very nice. So look at that, and these points are way, way off. So these aren't really, really kind of lining up very well. So what we could do in that case is we could do a function fit. So we do a function fit. And I'm going to do a function fit for both. I guess I need to select one at a time, looks like. Hit OK, and I'm going to go down to my quadratic, select the quadratic, hit try fit. Boom, look at that. It looks nice and pretty. Hit OK. Bam, there's my curve. I just had to do it again for the other data set. So that's how you do a curve fit. Really quickly, I've just got a minute left. What I want to do is show you how to print. So let's say I want to do, let's do another curve fit. Let's make them both. Let's do both of them. So select that. Okay. And it's already on quadratics, so we just hit try fit. That looks pretty because the data worked out really nice. Hit OK, move these guys around so you can see both of them, and look how nice and pretty that looks. So what we're going to do for printing is we're going to go to File. We're going to go to Print Graph, and then this is the name. This is one of my students, so I'm just going to type in Mr. McCoy, and then hit OK. Our printer is going to be this Room 227 black and white. We go to Properties. And this is where it's going to take a delay. Go to orientation. We want to go to landscape. And that's it. So hit OK. And we are going to hit OK. The number of copies, you got 2 people in your group. Hit 2 and hit OK. And it'll come out the printer in the back of the room. Again, the room number is room 227/_BW. If this does not show up on one of your computer, on your printer's options, let me know. And I'll be happy to help you with that. I hope this helps. Have a great day. And good night.